sharing that. So I've got a couple of questions come through.
Okay.
Sharon says, Neville, thank you for being here. What is your definition of success, and does it start in the mind, do you think?
I think that's the only place there is. Yeah, because my definition of success is, hey, I've got somebody who loves me. And so I'm pretty successful, really, you know, and we've worked together, and that's a success because that's what we wanted.
Yeah.
So, okay, success is, I just figured this out, really. Success is wanting something and achieving it, I suppose. So, and along the way, you know, things don't always go to plan, mainly because people haven't got a plan. You don't know what you don't know. So success is wanting something. If you decide you want something, and if you get it, then it's success. But just be careful. And I do say in my book, I should advertise my book.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
Yeah, there we are. There's my book.
Great.
The answer is yes, no, what is the question?
Yeah.
Anyway, the thing is, I say a lot of things in my book that's been good for me and bad for me. The thing is, if you decide something, then you go for it, and that is a success. But I was just saying, when you put the ladder of success up against the wall, or you decide that climbing a mountain is going to be a success, just remember, just think first, what wall are you going to put your ladder up against? What mountain are you going to climb? Because when you get to that top and you think you're successful and nobody's followed you, so I'm talking about your family, for instance, and they're climbing a different ladder, or they're climbing a different mountain, or they're stopping at the bottom because they don't want to come along with you. Have you been successful? You know, when you've so you've got to decide what you want and then go for it, but just decide as well how it will impact other people around you. And if it's not compatible, you know, you may have this desire to do whatever, but if that desire is not with other people, you can't convince them, then it's not success. So, and also, I believe when you're born, you come into this world with a, shall we say, it's a fun fair. So you come into this fun fair of a world, and it's full of rides. And to get through it, you have to go on every ride, or you get stuck in the park. And a lot of people don't want to go on the ride, which is called the House of Horrors. And unfortunately, they get stuck in the park because they don't want to do it. And they go, I'm not doing that. I'm not going on that ride. But if you want to get through, and you want to, if your success or what you want to succeed in is beyond that ride, you've got to go through it. And we've been through some houses of horrors, and but you come out the other side. So what I'm trying to say is, this is just a game. You know, you've got to play the game, and it's not always going to be good. It's going to be shit sometimes, and if it is, then you're going to come out of it. You know.
Brilliant.
But
Thank
don't
you.
stop there. Don't stop in a job. Well, I get this all the time. People go, I hate my job. I would like to do what you're doing. But, you know, I got my house and and it's paid for, and I'm not going to borrow any money against it. But I hate what I do. And I just long for 15 years time when I'm retired, then I can do what I want. No, you're wasting your life. You know, you've got to be a bit more passionate. You know, you've got to go for it, and don't. I'm not saying don't be concerned about everything in life, but don't take it too seriously.
Hmm.
Yeah, you've got to. I don't know what the question was.
No, that's great. That's great. I mean, it's a bit like
Sorry, I
a bit like your
ramble.
book. It's a bit like your book in that, you know, you answer it first and then ask the question. But yeah, no, thanks for that. That's great insight. So I've got a question from Dill asking, with a lot of high stores closing, high street stores, i.e. Carphone Warehouse and so on, what do you see the new opportunity in the high street?
Well, it is. You look on our high street, and it's like tea rooms and charity shops. It's you know, it's not a good situation, and I believe because people decided to get hundreds and thousands of shops all the same. So it's just not a good situation. I think on the high streets that it's got to change. I would like to have some proper shops where you can go and see things. And we shop online every day, and it's convenient. And I think one of the problems is you go into a shop and they haven't got the stock. And they expect you to, you know, if you go for a book, you can get my book in hours, but you go into a shop and you say, can I have that book? And they go, it's 2 weeks' time. And people don't want that now. People's lives have changed. They want things instantly. They want instant gratification. So there's probably be a lot more conversions. There's so much opportunity in high streets where you go down a high street and you look up and there's floor after floor which is empty, and people could be living there, which they did 100 years ago. Now I think it's time. We've done some conversions in Peterborough where we've made apartments, and I think there's obviously opportunities for people in the building game to convert a lot of these first, second, third floor spaces, and then there'll be more opportunity for retailers to come back into the shops if there is a lot of people who are all around there, because Peterborough was a ghost town after 6 o'clock. So now obviously there's a lot more apartments in Peterborough, and there's a lot more people about. So there's a lot more restaurants. Well, it was a few weeks ago. So the restaurants were thriving because the people was coming back into town and living there. So if we get more and more of that, then it will go full circle, and your small independent shops will open up again.
Yeah.
Hi, Neville. It's Dill.
Hi.
So, hi. Great words of wisdom. Really, really great life experience. I think everyone, however they are, and I'm slightly on the older side compared to some of the audience, we can all benefit and just get up and go for another round in the fight of life, I guess. And so, you know, really motivating talk there. Just sort of, I have a feeling it's not just, you know, we're looking at restaurants, and a lot of the restaurants are running out of money and they're closing. And you know, when you look at the doom and gloom on the BBC and so forth, there is a chance some of those restaurants may not open, unfortunately. So, you know, and then again, we're on Zoom meetings, and a lot of the offices may need retasking. And I guess it's a case of not just one sector being affected. This is going to affect a number of sectors, and I guess what I'm trying to say is this might be a bigger challenge than everybody else than we may have anticipated. But then again, the opportunities might be bigger. What's your view on each sector of that commercial? I guess I'm asking you to forecast where the commercial properties are going to end up going. You know,
we've just built 3 big offices. super offices. They command the highest rents in Peterborough. And yes, so you're right, a bit scary. And things will change. I mean, but just look at this. This is fantastic. We've just started this with the family. So I was quite a bit of our family is in Switzerland. So last night we've got people from, we've got our daughter on Zoom, and my nephew, and my sister in Switzerland, and my nephew in Switzerland, and so this is great. So there'll be more and more of this, which is good, and more. If you are in offices and half the people are working from home, this will be normal. There'll be a screen on the wall with everybody there, and it will be a virtual office. So people are a bit worried about people being at home because they're distracted with the cooking and washing and gardening and the dogs and kids. But they will learn to adapt. And the people in the offices will, as I say, will have a wall of screens with people virtually there. So it's going to be good because it'll bring their costs down. Maybe they'll decide that maybe the local authorities will decide what they did in the 1960s and 70s. If you run a business from home, well, you wasn't allowed to. Couldn't have a van in the 1960s outside your house because somebody report you're working from there, and it's a residential area. So whether the rates will start to go up for people who are working at home or not, I don't know. But it all goes round in circles, and these things are quite exciting because will we build any more offices? So we were just going to build another 16,000 square foot office, and that was not for anybody particular, but just do it on spec like we've done the other three. And we're thinking about it now. Maybe we'll rent it as a car park, because all the streets around there are full of cars on double yellow lines and on pavements.
Yeah.
So we will adapt, and I'm sure I can get just as much from a car park as I can from 16,000 square foot new office.
Thanks. Dill, thanks for asking that question. I've got Sharon here who's actually come in and unleashed with a series of questions.
Good.
I'll go with her first one. Do you feel younger and wiser now than in 2008?
If I was younger and what, wiser?
Yeah. Do you feel younger and wiser now than you were in 2008? So
I feel a lot younger. Yeah, because I think mostly 2008 was bad. I think I was living on alcohol.
Yeah.
It was a bad time. I was living in the office. I've been used to luxury for 26 years. I was used to people working in the house, a gardener, a cleaner, a person, who's looked after the children and chauffeured them about. And it was like, hey, come on, and living in the office. So I feel a lot younger. Yeah, wiser. I don't know whether you get any wiser because you make mistakes all the time. Somebody said, I think it's probably me, you've only got to be right 51% of the time to be a success in business.
Yeah.
Where I think, I'm a type of person who will go out on a limb, will do things that are different, we chase excitement, and it doesn't always go right, but we're ready to change things, and we can change things in seconds. We can, and you make mistakes. You're always making mistakes, and nothing. You're relying on other people's wants, hopes, dreams, ambitions, And so yeah, there's I don't know about wiser.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks. So
not like Victor Mildrew. Yeah, what's that? How he used to be. Yeah, but
good stuff.
no, I've stopped doing that now. I wouldn't do that if I were you. No, people do things because that's what they want to do, and we all learn.
I've got another question from Sharon. So you have dyslexia and ADHD. You say this in your book, which
Yes.
we've already talked about. When and how did you realize these were to your advantage? And what advice would you give others who experience a negative perception of this? So others that maybe limit their own potential or feel that they've labeled themselves with something that would suggest that their potential is limited.
Right, ADHD is absolutely brilliant, but it gets me into trouble so much because your mind is racing and you want to do, second-hand prams. So we had a little business with second-hand prams. Well, I wanted to do new prams. I wanted to do, and then we wanted to do some clothes, and we wanted to do some toys, and we wanted to serve everybody with everything. So you're continually changing and progressing. And ADHD manages, I think that's brilliant because you're always bouncing about and you're doing things and changing, chopping and changing. And you've still got your main focus. So you can still focus, but you're trying things. And it really gets on, I get on Marilyn's nerves a lot because we will have a discussion and she will say, this is right. Are we doing this? Are we doing that? And I say, doing that. And then she'll want to go into in depth of, and I go, we've made that decision, on to the next one. And she says, but we haven't discussed it. I say, well, you have. You said, shall we do this or that? And I've said, we'll do this. And now we're on to the next thing. Yeah. And so ADHD makes you, I believe, make decisions and get on with it to the next one. And very often people can't cope with it because they want a discussion around it and it's already been discussed. Are you going to catch the bus at 10:30, 11? Well, there's no discussion, that's it. Why or
yeah.
So ADHD makes you explore things and go for it and do things rapidly. Dyslexia, well, you can't do things, so therefore you have to have other people around you who can. So you complement each other. So I've office. So she's behind the scenes doing things, doing it, from morning till night, and it's and that's good because I couldn't do it. It would drive me mad. So you get people to complement you and you help them. So if you can find somebody, and everybody's got problems, so if you can complement them with their problem and do things that they don't want to do or can't do, and they can help you, well, dyslexia is really good. And also with dyslexia, you have to think outside, I keep saying outside the box, you have to think different. How do you get to that? It's like the bus that got stuck under the bridge and they're trying to pull it out the bridge and the little boy come and said, why didn't you let the tires down? And everybody goes, oh, why didn't we think of that? It's exactly the same. And people go, what is that going to cost you? And I go, 2%. 2% of what? 2% of what I paid for it is going to cost, whatever it may be. They go, how did you work that out? And go, well, it's simple, isn't it? How do there's some things which are so simple to a dyslexic, and other things are so hard. But dyslexia makes you think different. How do you get over this problem? And I've had thousands of people work with us, and they go, you think different. And I'm going, well,
Yeah.
I don't think I think different. They go, but right. So there was a new fork truck driver in Kiddicare. We had 12-meter high racking, and that's high. It is, and there was about I don't know, 12,000 pallets, and each pallet had a nozzle above it for a sprinkler. So this new guy, his first day, he went into a zone where he shouldn't go and knocked a 6-inch pipe out, and the water came down out of this pipe. The pumps went on, and there was about 40 people ended up, and when I heard about it, in the warehouse, all trying to get rid of this water, sweep it out. And I just stood there, and I go, switch off the pumps. So they switched off the pumps, and I got my fleece, and I took it off, and I stuck it inside the pipe, because then it was only the pressure from 12 meters, and it was pouring out. And they go, there's 40 people there going, they were looking at the problem and not at the solution. And it was, so you look at things when you're dyslexic, you look at things a little bit different. And you ask yourself, why? Why am I doing this? Why? What good is it? Why? All the time, why?
Thanks, Neville. So this is an interesting one from Richard, and you and I had a brief chat about this earlier on. But Richard's question is: I had an offer accepted on a residential property just before the crisis hit. What would be your approach, next steps on the purchase price previously agreed? Would you pull out altogether or negotiate on the price? And if you're renegotiating, what percentage would you work to?
So before this lockdown,
yeah,
they call it lockdown. It's a good name for house arrest, isn't it?
yeah.
Okay, house arrest. There's 2 billion people under house arrest at the moment, and we've accepted it. And I wonder what. So anyway, sorry, I'm digressing.
Yeah.
So you've made a deal.
Offer accepted.
What's changed the deal?
I guess the view is that going through this lockdown and businesses changing and everything else, would I go back in with that same offer on that property? Would I renegotiate, or would I pull out altogether? I don't think a lot has changed, but that's a fair question. Yeah, actually, let me put you live, Richard, so you can respond back.
If you've made a deal, right? Okay, so I'll give you a scenario. In 2006, the market was at the top. Everything you manufactured, everything you built, you sold, and the prices was going up and up and up. So Klaus, I think, had built 6 units in Peterborough, and they wanted something like 2.9 million. And I said, yes, I'll have them, because you could not lose in 2005, 2006. You could not lose. Well, this was 2006, and I immediately put 2 agents on them to let them. And this was in the April. And by the June, we should have let all 6 units, and nobody, the 2 agents hadn't got a sniff, they hadn't. And there was something wrong. So I said to the other agent who was selling it, 2.9 million, I said, I'm not pulling out. I've got to revise my offer to the market, which is at the moment. And he said, well, it's booming. I said, it obviously isn't, because I can't let them. So I revised it to 2.1, and they told me fuck off. And because that's, that was, anyway, it was empty for 6 years then. And I bought them 6 years later for, I think it was 2.5, but I had 5 acres of industrial land thrown in with it.
Wow.
So the thing is, that is in a decline. That's in a market that has actually changed. So there was an oversupply and there was a problem with the banking system, etc. There was this problem. So are you saying with this lockdown for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, are you saying you feel the market has completely changed? And if you are, why are you going to go ahead with it? Will a reduction make it better, and for what reason? So is the market going down, or is the market going to go up because there's a lack of building going on, and there's still a pent up want for housing? I don't know, is it industrial or is it housing, or?
This is a residential.
Hi, Neville, it's Richard speaking.
Go, Richard.
Thanks for your time, Neville, so far. It's been really insightful. My question was based, in terms of decision-making in business, I've always tried to take emotion out of it. Unfortunately or fortunately, I'm kind of been forced into, force is the wrong word, but we've had to look to purchase a house based on a baby coming and et cetera, et cetera. So it's very much a private residential purchase rather than for business. If it was for business purposes, I'd be more inclined to immediately offer less. And I suppose that's based on, there's no black and white figures to say the property market has dropped by X percentage today. I suppose it's just preempting, I said the worst case scenario, but the likely event that property prices will drop. And, it's going to the vendor and saying, ultimately, look, the world has changed in an unprecedented nature. I've got to be real about this. The problem with that, and it's a very personal circumstance, is obviously we risk the vendor who's in a position to move into rented accommodation and doesn't have a mortgage on the property to say, well, no, thanks, but no thanks. I'll if you don't want it, the price agreed, then that's it. And then we're in a position of saying, well, do we take on a property which is likely to put us in negative equity? It's how long's a piece of string, admittedly, but I'd value your opinion if you're in my shoes as to what you do, rather than saying it's exactly the right thing to do.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean, because we all want to bargain. We all want to take advantage of this situation. And if you're looking for a way to make the situation so you can get the price down, you've got to be careful, because you don't know what the situation with the vendor is going to be. The other thing is if it's not to make a profit and it's to live in, if it's a long term, how much do you think you can get off? And then you divide that over the long term. Is it going to be worth losing out on it? Do you really, really want this house? And is a few £1,000s going to make any difference to you where it might to the vendor? When you say the prices are going down, they could. I mean, it's like all recessions, they could go down. I've had houses go down 50%, and then they come back up again. I have sold houses for half the price I've bought them, but that was for certain reasons. I know somebody at the moment who's just buying a flat, and they agreed a long time ago the amount. Now he wants to go back and say, I want it for less, because he thinks he could possibly get it for less because of the situation at the moment. But also he's bought the rest of the flats around, and if the person says no, I don't like your attitude, and you're the last person I'm going to sell it to now, he's never going to own the block.
Yeah.
So, and he's only talking about 10 grand, and he's risking the whole block being a freehold for himself for 10 grand. So I've said, well, I wouldn't risk it.
Okay.
There is, prices are going up for construction. They are. So inevitably prices will go up for housing. The only thing that could go down is the price of land, to build these houses on. But on the other hand, I'm finding that the prices are going up for land.
Okay.
So, and there's not enough on the market. So, I mean, how much are you thinking that you could get off this house?
I think the question was more about what could you go back with if you were going to renegotiate. I think it was the same question, is in what could you
Yeah, I mean,
renegotiate on?
Yeah, just to answer Neville's question, I suppose that's the ultimate. I mean, I spoke to someone yesterday who thinks that property price is going to go down 20%. The property is circa 400k. So to go in at this stage, which is we'd probably be moving in kind of June or July time, to go in and offer more or less 80k less is perhaps a little too far fetched. And again, I appreciate, it'll change in different circumstances. And, if you had a crystal ball, you'd be probably a much richer man than you currently are ultimately. So
I have done all of this. Some I've not wanted to. So are you prepared to walk away from it? That's the thing. Are you prepared to lose it? So if you are, you're in a much, much stronger position. I was in a position where I couldn't care less whether I bought the property or not. Initially, I thought this was absolutely great. I found some gas tanks, historic gas tanks in the front garden, which was from the gas board, which is 100 years ago. And I made that an excuse to knock 40 grand off, because at the end of the day, I thought it's going to maybe take me 40 grand to take those out. So, and I didn't, by the way, it didn't have to. I got 40 grand off, but I was prepared to walk away. So if you're prepared to walk away from it and it doesn't affect you, then knock some money off, knock 80 grand off and see how you get on. But you've got to be prepared to walk away. And I think that's where you've got to be. You don't care whether you have it or not. If you're talking about that amount of money, 80 grand, it's a lot of money.
Okay, thanks, Neville. We've got to start wrapping up because we're on a short time frame. But I just want to finish off the rest of the slides. So thanks for your input there. It's been absolutely useful.
Thank you.
Let me bring that up. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. So just for the rest of the guys in the group, Alliance, another part of our business is Alliance Financial Services. And this has got Bushan JVing with us on this business. And what we said before is that we'll offer a free portfolio review. If anyone wants to go through their portfolio and wants to get some insight on what could be possible in the way of lending and how lenders would view things, then definitely get in touch with us. The email is my email, so email me and or send me a private message and we'll get you set up for a free portfolio review. And then this is the podcast. So Neville and I recorded this podcast last year. This is the link to the podcast, but you can just search it in Apple and on Android as well. And there's a lot of insight there as well. We go deep into Kiddicare and everything else that Neville was discussing. So it's really useful. So listen to that. And if you haven't already joined the WhatsApp group, I've got about 3 minutes left before we lose each other. So join our WhatsApp group, and that we'll put it on the link. We'll put it in the chat group. Can you not see the screen? Sorry, I think Roberta's just saying that you can't see the screen. Can you see the screen? Can you see the screen, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fab. Yeah. Join the WhatsApp group. Just going back a couple of slides. This is the podcast that Neville and I recorded last year. Listening to that, and send me a message if you wanted a portfolio review with Bushan as well. And that's it. So next week we're actually going to do a recession rescue plan, which is going to be an evening one, because I know some people are handling manic kids in the day and it becomes a little difficult. So we decided to try out the evening, and it would be good to have you guys on board. We're going to talk about a pure plan on how you get to ground zero and work your way back up and reinvent yourself a little bit throughout this recession. But yeah, that's all for us, really. Neville, thank you so much for coming on board. Really appreciated it. And I think the listeners here got tremendous value as well. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad people have. Thank you.
Yeah, and enjoy cooking for Marilyn later, and tell her happy birthday from us all.
Yes, I will. Thank you very much.
Thanks
Thank you,
all.
everybody.
See you later.
It's been a pleasure.
Great.
Bye.